lot of people say I am protein sensitive and therefore I cannot use protein. And I just want to say that if you're someone that considers yourself protein sensitive, you might actually need protein more than the rest of us. Let's talk about it. All right, so what is protein sensitivity? Protein sensitivity simply means that with use of protein or any application of protein, the hair reacts in somewhat a drastic way that is undesirable, unfavorable, and sometimes quite scary for a lot of us. You can get things like brittleness with the use of protein. You can get like a hard feeling of the hair. You can get stiffness with the hair. Dryness is a massive indication or characteristic of people that are protein sensitive. And then you have others that actually have an opposite reaction to protein, okay? And the hair ends up feeling limp or feeling, a bit too soft, or the curl seeming a little bit different. So protein sensitivity can manifest or present itself in different ways for different people. Now, a lot of people stay away from proteins because of this drastic reaction to protein that their hair has. However, I'm here to say that if you think that you've encountered some kind of protein sensitivity, it may mean that you actually need protein more than anyone else. And the reason for this is because high porosity hair, which is most type 4 naturals, right, actually takes on more protein than, say low porosity hair, because there's so many gaps in the hair, because there's such a high need for protein. It just drinks up all that protein, and sometimes in excess amounts, and the hair just reacts because it's too much at that particular point. Not necessarily too much for the hair in general, but just too much in one sitting. So that's the reason that a lot of people might be protein sensitive and yet still actually need protein quite a lot. Being of high porosity and having those gaps in the hair just means that you do need that protein to go in and fill the gaps, smooth the hair, strengthen the hair, improve moisture absorption, and just help improve the integrity of the hair in general. So do not stay away from protein if you're protein sensitive. So that's the first thing I just want to tell you. So how do you manage protein sensitivity? The first is to not avoid protein. Like I've already said, make sure you use protein, but the idea is to use protein in small amounts and maybe a little bit more regularly, okay? Tiny amounts, however you're doing it a little bit more regularly. That way your hair is all sort of trained to take the protein, okay? And it takes only in small amounts. That way it doesn't have that drastic reaction. The next thing is to stick to low molecular proteins, all right? Things like silk protein, rice protein, amino acids, peptides, tiny amounts of protein, so that the hair isn't coated with huge high molecular proteins such as keratin and collagen. So you want to stick to tiny amounts of protein. These are called low molecular protein. The next thing is to moisturize your hair. You must never allow your hair to be dry, because once the hair is dry, you kind of need to really train it back up to take moisture. I think sometimes we think, my hair was just dry for one day, but now it's moisturized the next. Once dryness has happened, you kind of need to train the hair to get used to moisture again. So never allow your hair to be dry. So moisturize your hair before it gets dry. That way your hair is constantly moisturized and you don't have to deal with the effects of dryness, plus the hardness and the brittleness and breakage that can happen with protein. Breakage, some people with protein sensitivity report having excessive amounts of breakage as a result of the dryness and the brittleness, of course. And obviously this is undesirable, particularly for people that want healthy hair, long hair that's thriving. Next, you want to deep condition. Deep conditioning is non-negotiable. With every wash day and definitely with every protein treatment, you must deep condition your hair. You can also look for products that do both protein and deep condition the hair. It's a little bit tricky to find these, but it is possible to find one where it's like a 2-in-1. That way you only need to treat your hair once and you get the protein and the moisture at the same time. One worth trying is, I believe, the Briogeo Don't Despair Repair. I personally didn't find it very moisturizing. However, some people found it moisturizing for their hair, so it does have protein in it. So if you can get the protein and still find that your hair is moisturized or conditioned as well, then that would be a good product. Another one to try is this one, the Don't Despair Repair. This is the Super Moisture Conditioner. This is the rinse out. So maybe use the mask, the deep conditioning mask first, and then use that as sort of like a rinse out if you're wanting just a quick wash day without spending too much time in the shower doing a 30-minute deep conditioning and then a 30-minute protein treatment. Okay, just some ideas there for you. The next thing is obviously to not overdo proteins. Okay, it's very much a trial and error, like I've already said. However, you do not want to overdo protein. If you're protein sensitive, you want to do it slowly in small amounts and just, you know, work around your hair to see what your hair likes. It might mean maybe skipping a protein treatment, but then using a leave-in conditioner that has some kind of protein in it. That way you're not putting protein at the wash stage and then at the leave-in stage and then, you know, protein again the following wash day. So maybe switching things up a little bit to include protein, remove protein, and just see what your hair likes with regards to incorporating protein in your routine. I've done a dedicated video discussing particular products that might work well with protein sensitive people. Go check that out for an extensive list of deep conditioners and some leave-ins and just other products in general. However, here are 3 options that you can use if you are protein sensitive.
So the first product I would like to introduce is this deep treatment mask from Texture ID. This is the perfect product if you want to ease yourself into using proteins and you're, you know, on the fence, you're a little bit worried or nervous about using protein in your routine, because it's actually quite packed with hydrating, moisturizing ingredients such as glycerin and even honey. Those are very, very good humectants. So you do get the moisture and the hydration from the product. However, you also get a low dose of protein. It's wheat protein, it's wheat hydrolyzed protein, which is a little bit on the larger side of proteins, even if it's hydrolyzed from my research. This is what I found out. However, guys, if you don't want to buy a protein and then a deep conditioner and you just want to use one product, this is a good example of something that you can use to ease yourself into starting to use proteins a little bit more. The next one is this Strength and Restore leave-in conditioner from Shea Moisture, and I've actually tried this leave-in conditioner. It did not do the best at moisturizing my hair, and maybe that's because it's actually quite packed with proteins. And what I love about this particular leave-in is that the first protein in there is rice protein, hydrolyzed rice protein, which is great because it's a small little protein, so it will penetrate the hair. So you have the most abundant protein being a little protein that will help penetrate the hair, strengthen the hair from the inside, and try and avoid some of the hardening that can come from larger proteins. Now, it does have 2 other proteins, hydrolyzed keratin and hydrolyzed vegetable protein, which means that it's a good protein treatment. However, because that top protein, which is the one in the huge amounts, is hydrolyzed rice protein, it's a tiny little protein, it means that this is unlikely, in my opinion, to actually cause too much hardness or brittleness on your hair. So give it a go if you're someone that is protein sensitive. However, you really want to try to include a little bit more protein in your routine. Now, it might not work for everyone that's protein sensitive. It might be too much protein. However, if I was going to be a little bit daring, even if I was protein sensitive, this is one that I would give a go. Okay, so here's another mask that you can try, again from Shea Moisture. This is the silicone free mask. This one, I like it because it's a little bit strengthening than the ID texture that we saw initially. Now, this one does have glycerin quite high on the list, which is really good because we know it's going to really nourish and hydrate and soften the hair as a treatment and as a conditioner. So you do get the conditioning and hydrating benefits. However, you also get some proteins. Now, this one does have 2 proteins, and the first protein is silk protein. Hydrolyzed silk protein is one of my favorite proteins for protein sensitive hair because it's tiny, once again, and it will penetrate the hair shaft to really strengthen from the inside and not really give you that feeling of a hard, brittle finish on top of your hair. It does have a second protein, which is hydrolyzed vegetable protein, which is also a good protein to have in your product. So you've got a little bit more product than the initial one that I showed you. So if you want to go a little bit, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit to include a little bit more protein, this is a good one to try, especially that the proteins are actually quite low on the list. So actually you're getting quite hydrating, moisturizing benefits, and sort of maintaining your hair with that little amount of protein in the product. So it's a good one to ease yourself into using proteins in your routine.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful to you. Until next time, it's Coily Diaries. Bye.